Introducing the Open Palm Podcast with host Jerome Shaw, available today on your favorite podcast platforms. The Open Palm Podcast is a positive, uplifting, motivational, and inspirational podcast. The host brings his insight and philosophy, and you can't help but gravitate towards his smile, his words, and his wisdom. Again, the podcast he hosts is titled The Open Palm Podcast. It's about inspirational messages, motivating themes, and thought-provoking ideas and topics. He'll also help you become more aware and in harmony with your own life, giving you a better understanding of your place in the world and using your skills accordingly, greeting the world with an open palm instead of a closed fist. You can find the show today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You can also connect with the host on Instagram at Jerome Shaw. That's JROMESHAW on Instagram. Jerome Shaw with the Open Palm Podcast. Motivation, meditation, mentality. Go listen, download, and subscribe today.
One day, 4 monks decided to meditate silently without speaking for 2 weeks. By nightfall, on the very first day, the candle began to flicker and then went out. The first monk said, "Oh no, the candle is out!" The second monk said, "Are we not supposed to talk?" The third monk said, "Why must you two break the silence?" The fourth monk laughed and said, "I'm the only one who didn't speak." What does this story tell you, my friend? The story entitled Sounds of Silence. In the beginning, these monks decided in earnest to do this test, this vow of silence, but they didn't even make it through the first day. But it's interesting how each of them spoke and broke the silence for very different reasons. An observer would see that each monk broke the silence for different reasons, and they could also be seen as a common stumbling block to each of their meditation. The first monk became distracted by one element of the world, in this case, the candle, as it flickered and began to go out, and so he lost sight of the rest. The second monk was more worried about the rules than the meditation itself. The third monk let his anger at the first two rule him and lashed out, while the fourth monk was lost in his own ego. As to some people, the reward is not in the effort, but in the recognition. What can you gather, my friend? Let this be a lesson to you, that there are many stumbling blocks on the way to success, but setbacks or things that set us back are not in the way, they are on the way. Perhaps there are many messages and many teachings that we can derive from this story. Things don't always go as planned, and as they say, oaths and promises, lightly spoken, are hardly kept. Would you ever take a vow of silence? And how long do you think you would last? Thank you for listening, my friend. This has been Jerome Shaw on TOP, the Open Palm Podcast, here in San Antonio, Texas. I pray you received an encouraging message letting you know and gather a lesson from this wonderful and humorous, I think, story of silent meditation that often can be broken so easily as we are much accustomed to speaking, many of us. But there can be solace in solitude, in silence. When no noise is made, does it have to be so uncomfortable? Or can we find meaning, purpose, and peace? Share this episode with a like-minded individual who is learning and growing, just like you, becoming their greatest version. Pay it forward so more can hear this message. And if this is your very first time receiving this podcast, give it a subscribe for more inspirational messages like this. And if you feel compelled to support, consider opening your browser to anchor.fm/jshaw. Clicking that support link there is much appreciated. Thank you to all the wonderful supporters who continue to donate to the podcast, making it possible for episodes like this. Call in if you received a nugget from this episode or any of the other ones. I love to hear your voice. Your voice has value, and you can do that by going to that same website. I would love to feature your voice on a future episode. Have a wonderful and blessed day or night wherever you are, my friend. And as always, take care. Hey there, my friend. So you've heard about Anchor, but do you know why it's the easiest way to make a podcast? Well, first off, it's free. It allows you to use creation tools that let you record your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make money from your podcast with minimum listenership. It's everything you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Can't wait to hear yours. Let's see what you have to offer the world.